I'm much better now that the ladies are back from space.
Thank you for having me. What were they up there, 10 minutes?
Well, it was very profound.
There is truly nothing more unserious than a bunch of female celebrities flying into space in a dong-shaped ship while claiming that they're astronauts saving humanity.
We've got to get to Blue Origin because it's over the top. It's over the top.
Out there, it's dark. It's like death.
And I'm so proud of us. I really am proud of me.
Flowers for me, I believe, are like God's laughter.
Look at us, we're very wealthy. Don't we look great? Admire us.
Colonel, you better take a look at this radar.
What is it, son?
I don't know, sir, but it looks like a giant dick.
He had the right idea. Send the most insufferable feminists and girl bosses into space. The only problem is they came back.
Let me get this straight. Katy Perry takes an 11-minute space ride, calls herself an astronaut, launches her tour set list in orbit, kisses the ground like she's just survived the Martian, and we're supposed to applaud this as female empowerment. Even Joe Rogan couldn't hold back, said she's basically a guru now. And honestly, he was being generous. While half the country's drowning in debt, these billionaires are staging feminist cosplay in a rocket shaped like a body part. We're calling it what it is. Narcissism dressed as nobility. This is what happens when pop feminism gets hijacked by PR teams and private jets. This wasn't history, it was parody. So let's talk about it.
Katie!
So here's what actually happened. On a random Tuesday, Katy Perry, Gayle King, Lauren Sanchez, and a hand-picked crew of ultra-glam friends boarded Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin rocket for what was hyped as a historic milestone for women. The headline screamed, "First all-female crew. Empowerment in orbit, breaking the glass ceiling at 60 miles up." But let's get real. This wasn't the moon landing. This wasn't even a real mission. It was an 11-minute suborbital joyride. Barely enough time to microwave a burrito. No training, no piloting, no danger, just a billionaire's Disneyland ride with designer flight suits, glam squads, and a setlist reveal floating in zero gravity.
We haven't seen it. I want to see it myself.
1, 2, 3, take us space!
Katy Perry emerges, kisses the ground like she's just survived Apollo 13, and declares herself super connected to love. Gayle King insists, don't call it a ride, it's a journey. Meanwhile, the internet is already loading the meme cannons. This was supposed to be a giant leap for womankind. What we got? Pop stars and billionaires playing dress-up in a $1.2 million rocket, calling it progress while half the country can't afford groceries. From pop star to astronaut in 11 minutes. The absurdity of the astronaut title, delivered with a hard, condescending edge, lands right there, setting up for the next segment of Rogan's roast. Joe Rogan didn't just see Katy Perry's space trip, he dissected it, line by line for millions. His weapon of choice? Relentless sarcasm. While the internet debated whether this was a giant leap for womankind, Rogan cut straight through the noise. If 11 minutes in a billionaire's rocket makes you an astronaut, then every kid who's ever ridden a roller coaster deserves a NASA badge.
It was very profound. I don't know if you've seen Katy Perry talk about it, but she's basically a guru now.
He zeroed in on the absurdity. A pop star floating with a daisy, a setlist reveal in zero-G, and suddenly we're supposed to treat this like a spiritual awakening worthy of Carl Sagan. Rogan's tone was pure deadpan. This wasn't a mission, it was a luxury retreat with a better view. He mocked the profound transformation, the teary-eyed confessions, the grand declarations of cosmic enlightenment, all squeezed into a flight shorter than your average commute.
What were her findings? That's my question.
Well,
what
she
did she
brought a
learn?
daisy, which is super important. It shows you how quick the flight was.
Joe Rogan summed up what millions were thinking. What a frivolous nothing burger. The best part? Rogan didn't have to shout. He let the spectacle speak for itself. Every time Katy Perry talked about feeling changed forever, Rogan's smirk was louder than any punchline. He didn't have to call it a PR stunt. The audience already knew. This was a masterclass in how to roast without breaking a sweat. The internet ran with it. Rogan's dry mockery was instantly memeified, his lines clipped and shared as the new shorthand for celebrity delusion. Suddenly, the bar for historic achievement was so low, you could trip over it in zero gravity. If flying on a plane doesn't make you a pilot, this didn't make you an astronaut. Rogan just said out loud what everyone else was thinking. This was less about breaking barriers and more about breaking the internet. So what these overtly rich people want you to do is admire them for their achievement and forget everything you know about astronauts. The years of training, the brutal physical tests, the risk of never coming home. That's not what happened here. This wasn't a mission. It was a luxury amusement park ride for the ultra-rich, wrapped in a shiny feminist bow and launched straight into meme territory. Picture this. Real astronauts spend a decade prepping for a shot at the stars. They sacrifice family, health, and sometimes their lives. This crew, they got a designer flight suit, a glam squad, and a playlist reveal at 60 miles up. The only thing at risk was a broken nail or a bad selfie angle.
It shows you how quick the flight was. The dead daisy that's like snipped from its life source was still alive or still vibrant.
Yeah, and it's
Look at her.
always yeah.
Shattered daisy.
Let's be real, there was no piloting, no danger, not even a whiff of adversity. The rocket was remote controlled from the ground. The hardest part was probably picking out which inspirational quote to post on Instagram after touchdown. Meanwhile, the world watched in disbelief as this historic moment unfolded. A billionaire's rocket, a pop star kissing the ground, and a chorus of self-congratulation echoing through social media. It was less giant leap for womankind, more giant leap for personal branding.
That Katy Perry needs to be further empowered bothers me. She's already got about $1 billion, and short of Taylor Swift, is the most famous pop star and female pop star in the world. That she needs empowerment says something sad about women.
Let's celebrate female astronauts.
And because they were
did it.
united.
Because a lot of men astronauts, they have to go to school.
Right.
They have to learn how to be a pilot first. Then they have to join the Air Force or the Navy, and then they get appointed by NASA.
That's right.
And then they go to space,
And there has been, that's the other thing, there has been female astronauts.
Let's not minimize this.
While real astronauts are out here battling zero gravity and risking everything for science, this was a 10-minute photo op, a zero-risk, maximum PR spectacle. The only thing that went into orbit was their egos, and maybe a daisy or two for good measure. If you want to see what real space achievement looks like, look up Sunita Williams or Peggy Whitson. This was the Met Gala in a capsule, a masterclass in privilege dressed up as progress. If you thought Joe Rogan's roast was savage, the internet's response was a full-blown feeding frenzy. The second Katy Perry's capsule landed, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube turned her historic space trip into the punchline of the year. And let's be honest, when Wendy's, the queen of corporate sass, tweets, "Can we send her back?" you know you've crossed from empowerment into meme territory. This wasn't just snark from anonymous trolls. The blue checks and celebrity class piled on too. Olivia Wilde reposted Perry's melodramatic ground kiss, dripping with irony. Amy Schumer faked a zero-G float with a stapler, mocking the whole "I'm an astronaut now" narrative. Even Martha Stewart, who's actually done a real zero-G flight, trolled Perry's achievement by posting her own footage and reminding everyone what actual adventure looks like.
I boarded a Boeing 727 aircraft called G-Force One and experienced what astronauts feel when they reach zero gravity.
Look what she wrote on the post. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag? She is better than Bethany. She's better than Bethany. I'm gonna say it, I'm sorry, but she trolls so hard.
But the real demolition crew? The commentators. Brett Cooper called it the most unserious display of Hollywood elitism in years. A bunch of millionaires floating in a rocket shaped like a punchline, pretending they're saving humanity. She didn't just question the empowerment angle, she torched it, pointing out that Perry's 3-minute float was an insult to every woman who's actually broken barriers in STEM or space.
This was not some big leap for women. Like, that is utterly ridiculous to assert. I mean, this entire thing was basically a glorified bachelorette trip.
Megyn Kelly didn't hold back either. She called the whole thing a desperate attempt to rebrand shallow tourism as her groundbreaking leap for humanity. Her take? This wasn't progress, it was a PR circus, a vanity project dressed up as feminism, and a slap in the face to real scientists and engineers who get zero airtime for actual achievements. And then there's the environmental hypocrisy. Social media lit up with side-by-sides, Perry burning more emissions in 11 minutes than most people will in a year, all while preaching about protecting our mother. The backlash wasn't just about the trip, it was about the message. Save the planet. But first, let me take $1 million selfie in low Earth orbit. The bottom line is, pop feminism's final form, billionaires playing dress-up on a rocket, while the rest of us are left footing the bill, financially, environmentally, and culturally. If this is what empowerment looks like in 2025, maybe it's time we all unplugged. Let's talk about the claim that's blasted across every headline and Blue Origin's press release. The first all-female crew in space. Except, it's not even true. Not by a long shot. NASA's been sending women into space for decades. Sally Ride, Mae Jemison, Peggy Whitson, real astronauts who trained for years, survived months in orbit, and actually did science. But sure, let's pretend Katy Perry's floating for 4 minutes in a billionaire's selfie capsule is the moment the glass ceiling finally shattered.
If you see like those heat shields that they put all over those things, and if they break off on the re-entry, everybody dies.
Right.
That's because you're way out there, and the amount of heat that gets generated as you're re-entering the atmosphere. I think they're essentially like on the border of the atmosphere.
Just take a look at this graph. They leave Earth, they pop right up just into orbit so that they can look down and see Earth, and then they immediately come back down. Like they experienced zero gravity and weightlessness for about 3 minutes.
What Blue Origin actually launched was a PR stunt. A handful of rich, unqualified celebrities and a couple of scientists whose names nobody remembers because they weren't invited on Good Morning America. They strapped into a remote-control rocket for a ride shorter than your average Uber trip. And somehow, this is supposed to be a victory for women in STEM? Let's be real. If Jeff Bezos actually cared about women in science, he'd be sending up astrophysicists, engineers, and astronauts, not his fiancée, Oprah's best friend, and a pop star who thinks bringing a daisy into orbit counts as groundbreaking research.
What are you guys going to do up in space? What are you doing up there? I mean, it's, by the way,
they're going for 11 minutes. They're going for 11 minutes. They're going up. I think they're going to float around a little and then come back.
So you're on like Magic Mountain. Like you're just going up and
Space Mountain. More appropriately, Space Mountain.
Space Mountain.
And here's the kicker. This isn't even the first time an all-female crew has gone to space. NASA's already done it. Russia's already done it. But the difference? Those women actually worked for it. They didn't just buy a ticket, float for a few minutes, and call it a movement. It's not just a lie, it's an insult to every woman who's actually broken barriers in space. This was a slap in the face. Rogan didn't just mock the trip, he exposed the entire charade. Calling this history is like calling a TikTok dance a Nobel Prize. You'd think after a week of public roasting, Katy Perry would just let the memes die and move on. But no, she's now demanding Wendy's apologize for their "Can we send her back" tweet, claiming it wasn't just a joke, but a billion-dollar brand publicly demeaning a woman. Suddenly, the pop star, who spent 11 minutes in zero gravity, is acting like she's the victim of a hate crime, not the punchline of a PR disaster. Wendy's, of course, did what every corporate brand does when the internet gets spicy. They issued a "We respect Katy Perry" statement, sprinkled in some admiration for her out-of-this-world talent, and then stopped short of actually apologizing. Translation: we're not sorry, but we don't want you to boycott the Frosty.
We always bring a little spice to our socials, but Wendy's has a ton of respect for Katy Perry and her out-of-this-world talent.
But the real comedy gold? Gayle King, the crew's self-appointed spin doctor, is everywhere with her golden tongue, trying to reframe this whole debacle as a misunderstood feminist triumph. She's on talk shows comparing herself to Alan Shepard, insisting this wasn't just a ride. And challenging critics, have you been to space? Blast off or back off.
This is what bothers me, because I've certainly read some of the things online, coming from people that I know, that I like, that I consider friends. Space is not an either or, it's a both and because you do something in space doesn't mean you're taking anything away from Earth.
And now, in a fresh twist, Gayle's saddened by the backlash. She says the online hate really hurts her feelings. You can almost hear the word "smallest violin" playing in the background. Because nothing says, "I'm in touch with the struggles of everyday Americans," like being devastated by Twitter memes from the comfort of a billionaire's capsule.
There was nothing frivolous about what we did. So, I'm very disappointed and very saddened by it. And I also say this, what it's doing to inspire other women and young girls, please don't ignore that.
The problem is nobody's buying it. Not the public, not the press, not even the other celebrities. Every time Gayle doubles down, insisting the trip was for the benefit of the Earth or that valuable data was gathered, the eye rolls get louder. The internet's not seeing trailblazers, they're seeing a billionaire's PR team in full damage control. Meanwhile, Katy's regret is leaking through the cracks. Sources say she wishes she hadn't turned her transformative trip into such a public spectacle. Maybe the ground kissing, the setlist reveal, and the flower for Daisy moment weren't such good ideas after all. But the real kicker, while Katy Perry and Gayle King try to reframe the narrative, the only thing anyone's talking about is how tone-deaf and out of touch this whole spectacle has become. The apology tour isn't working. The spin isn't working. The internet's verdict is final. You can't PR your way out of a cultural faceplant. When billionaires and celebrities demand apologies for being roasted and their media friends try to rewrite history, it just proves the point. They're more interested in controlling the narrative than actually listening to the world that's laughing at them. Let's step back from the PR circus and look at the real world for a second. While Katy Perry and her celebrity crew are floating in a billionaire's rocket, the rest of America is stuck on the ground, literally and financially. We're told this is a historic moment for women, but for most people, it's a reminder that the gap between the rich and everyone else has never felt wider. This is what happens when the ultra-rich treat the planet like their personal theme park. While most Americans are deciding which groceries to put back on the shelf, Katy Perry and her astronaut girly friends are blowing $1 million each to float in low Earth orbit for 4 minutes. The opportunity of a lifetime, if you've got the cash and the connections.
While you can't afford rent or probably bread, the ultra-rich want to remind you that they've successfully turned this planet into a theme park for themselves.
Katy Perry comes back down, kisses the Texas dirt, and delivers her post-flight wisdom. You never know how much love is inside you until the day you launch. Impossible to feel love, apparently, until you leave this burning husk of a planet for a couple of minutes. This experience is second only to being a mom, she says. I feel super connected to love. Sure, Katy. Try being super connected to your grocery bill. Space tourism? I mean, are you kidding me? Sorry, I won't be booking my ticket because I'm about 800 tax brackets away from being able to afford this thing. This isn't just a reminder of how out of touch the ultra-wealthy are. It's worse than that. I feel like I'm being gaslit by this trip to space.
This experience is second to being a mom. Wow. Yeah. I couldn't recommend this experience more.
Oh my gosh, she feels so connected to love.
And while Katy's up there cosplaying as an astronaut, the most vulnerable among us aren't reaching for the stars. They're reaching into their grocery cart to put back the eggs on the shelf because they can't afford them. This is the equivalent of a multi-million-dollar roller coaster. You're not an all-female crew. You literally just sat there. It's automated. You don't have to do anything.
This is somehow actively taking away from the contributions of actual female astronauts. You know, the ones with like engineering degrees and PhDs and shit like that. The women who contribute to, I don't know, making sure our phones work.
Let's not pretend this is about progress. Rich people destroying the planet with their wealth is nothing new. But don't try to whitewash this as a win for feminism. Astronaut is a profession. Astronauts are people who are trained to take part in missions to space. Qualifications that are not limited to how much money you have in your bank account and how well you know Lauren Sanchez. This wasn't a leap for womankind. It was a leap for the 1% and a slap in the face to everyone else. The only thing that's truly out of this world is how out of touch these celebrities have become. So after all the memes, the PR spin, and the billionaire cosplay, here's where we land. Katy Perry's 11-minute astronaut trip didn't make history. It made a punchline. Joe Rogan said what everyone else was thinking, and the internet did the rest. But maybe that's the real lesson. When the ultra-rich try to hijack empowerment, all they do is remind the rest of us just how far out of orbit they really are. Now I want to hear from you. Was this the most tone-deaf celebrity stunt of the year? Or are we just being cynical? Drop your hottest take in the comments and tell me, what was the cringiest moment of this whole circus? And if you want more no BS breakdowns of celebrity disasters, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because next time, we're taking on even bigger egos and even wilder headlines.